Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Occult Think Tank. My name is Greg. In today's program, I am going to talk about a major conflict between Christianity and Judaism. There's many conflicts, but this goes back to a comment that I had gotten in my last video on my YouTube channel, where the person had mentioned the story of the rich man and Lazarus. And one of the things that had occurred to me when I was looking over that is we have this phrase in Luke 16:22 of Abraham's bosom, being supposedly where this beggar had gone. And I was curious whether or not that there was any reference to that anywhere in the Old Testament. And what you see in front of you is the only place Abraham's bosom is mentioned, and that is Luke 16:22, which means this is not a location that Jesus or any Jew would have talked about, because it is not mentioned anywhere in the Torah or Tanakh. This is entirely a creation of Jesus, which means it is bullshit. There is no Abraham's bosom. It doesn't exist. By the same token, the idea of hell in the Old Testament is Sheol, which is the grave. The idea of a place of burning is not something that was ever part of Judaism. It was mentioned with Jeremiah 32:35, and this is extremely problematic for Jesus and Christians. Reason being, it says, and they built the high place of Baal, which was in the valley of the son of Hinnom, which is what became called Gehenna, to cause their sons and daughters to pass through the fire unto Moloch. And here's where we get into what really, from a God perspective, matters, which I commanded them not. There's first problem. Then, neither came it into my mind. If the God of the Bible cannot change and does not change, the fact that burning children in fire it never commanded, neither came it into its mind, and to make matters worse, that this act is an abomination as well as a sin, becomes extremely problematic as far as the idea of if it would be something that the God of the Bible would ever go along with. But Christianity also makes a big deal out of faith and the idea of belief without proof, which is also something that we just don't have in the Old Testament. The idea of proof. Well, let me first do the aspect of faith. And exact phrase, but I just want Old Testament, because this is important. There are two references to faith in the Old Testament compared to in the New Testament. There are 245 matches in 229 verses. That is a massive difference between the Old Testament and the New Testament. But it gets even worse when you factor in the idea of proving something. The God of the Old Testament was very big on proving that people were going to follow him or not. Proof was a very big deal. So much so that the criteria for Messiah that was mentioned in the Old Testament as the criteria and the things that the Messiah would do and how you would know someone is the Messiah. It wasn't a matter of faith. It never was. It was always a matter of proof. Like the aspect of where I think it is Isaiah where it says about the swords being beaten into plowshares and so forth. And Christians try to act as if, Isaiah 2:4, and he shall judge among the nations and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. That is one of the criteria for Messiah, the aspect of no more war, but it is something that every one of us can clearly see simply has not happened. It not only did not happen during the time of this supposed Jesus, it still hasn't happened today. In 2021, this event mentioned here still has not happened. So the Messiah could not be here even today. It's not a matter of faith. It is a matter of, until this happens, the Messiah is not here, period. By the same token, the Messiah was to be born of a Jewish mother and Jewish father. And that also did not happen. Christians do not understand that there are two Hebrew words that get translated as virgin, but they have very different and distinct meanings. These are things that do matter, because when it comes to the Old Testament, the Jewish Torah, the idea of the original sin story, which is supposedly starting around Genesis 3, or it could even be said that it starts around Genesis 2:17. There is no definitive, this is where the story itself begins, because there isn't really anything to it from a Jewish perspective. When I had talked to Mark Powers regarding the idea of what is called the original sin, There is no concept in Judaism of quote unquote an original sin. When a child is in Christianity, every child is born guilty of this original sin. That does not exist in Judaism. In Judaism, a child is born innocent. They're not guilty of anything because they haven't done anything. The aspect of sin does pop in later regarding what people do, but not in the aspect of anyone being damned from birth, that because of the actions of Adam and Eve that everyone is damned. That is simply not a concept that was in Judaism. So much so that Ezekiel 18, 20, and 21 really establishes this. Even though, as I've said in other videos, Christians only want to see the first 7 words of Ezekiel 18:20. The soul that sinneth, it shall die. They want no part of the rest of verse 20 or any of what is mentioned in verse 21. They want to completely ignore what I have highlighted here because it doesn't fit their narrative. It doesn't fit the you have to think a certain way. The idea of what you believe changing anything is also not part of Judaism. But in Ezekiel 18:20, the son shall not bear the iniquity of the father, neither shall the father bear the iniquity of the son. The righteousness of the righteous shall be upon him, and the wickedness of the wicked will be upon him. You are held accountable for what you do, not what someone else does. And then in the next verse, it goes on to say, essentially, if you turn from the sins you have committed, keep my statutes and do what is lawful and right, you shall surely live, you shall not die. Which makes no reference to Jesus, and it also means you don't need to have anyone paying for, because it is also mentioned in Psalms 49 verse 7. None of them can by any means redeem his brother, nor give God a ransom for him, which is in direct conflict with a claim Jesus made in Matthew 20 verse 28 and Mark 10:45. I will just show you Matthew 10:20-28. Even as the Son of Man is come not to be ministered unto, but to minister and to give his life as a ransom for many. You can't have that. That is in direct conflict with Psalms 49 verse 7. Which means Christians have to make a choice as to who are they going to follow. The God of the Bible or Jesus. Clearly, they are wanting to ignore the God of the Bible in favor of their scapegoat, Jesus. The problem with that comes in that there is no, to use the term, redemption of the soul in the sense of thinking somebody else paid for it for you. Because if you do something that hurts someone else, your belief that somebody else died does not change what you did. It is immoral as hell to try and act as if somebody else could pay for or atone for your actions. This is the inherently immoral nature of Christianity. It is also a great big fuck you to anyone that you hurt. Because if your actions hurt someone, and let's take the aspect of, like when I was growing up and my mom would be verbally abusive. Her behavior could not be atoned for by anyone but her. And that is something that it wouldn't affect a God per se, but it would affect, and directly did affect, the relationship her and I had. And that is something that carries on with every person's life. When you do something that hurts someone else, a God is not affected by that. It is the interaction that those people have because of the action that was done. And if one person thinks that all they have to do is believe someone died long before them and that washes it away, they are trying to sidestep personal responsibility in favor of mouthing empty words. That makes the idea of redemption or forgiveness, it makes it an insult, because you're trying to sidestep your own personal responsibility because you claim to think something happened. That's not the way Judaism is set up. That's not the way anything moral would be set up. If you do something that harms or injures somebody else, you have to make it right. You cannot expect somebody else to atone for or make right something that you did. But this is at the heart of what Christianity is all about, as well as the idea of thought crime and saying you have to think a certain way or else. The John 3:16 and 18 type of bullshit, where Christians, basically it's the most quoted verse in the Bible, but Christians don't realize that the line of whosoever believeth is thought crime. That right there is making John 3:16 and the message of Jesus one of thought crime. And it is further compounded with thought crime all through John 3:18, that he that believeth on him is not condemned, but he that believeth not is condemned already, because he hath not believed in this only begotten Son of God, which is bullshit. The God of the Bible can't begot anyone. There is no Hebrew word for fucked by Casper. In the Old Testament, it was all about bloodline. The God of the Old Testament has no bloodline. So this idea of begotten Son of God can't happen. It's a bullshit term that has no meaning. The Messiah had to be born of a Jewish mother and Jewish father. These are things that Christians don't understand, because it doesn't fit their shirking of personal responsibility. But if the God of the Bible would be real, the ideas mentioned in Christianity would be an offense to it, because it goes against the aspect of being personally accountable for what you do. But there is also major references that I find interesting with regard to various alien races. One that comes to mind and is in Job 9:9. There is Orion and the Pleiades that are specifically mentioned. Those are different alien races, and it could even be that is a reference to another alien race. There are references and mentionings of the Anunnaki and potentially other alien races that were also around this time frame, because the Elohim is supposedly what the Lord God would be. The thing is, all of this correlates with the aspect of the alien subject and the ideas of what hell would be in the ancient world have vastly changed from how the idea was originally conceived, from a place of the underworld or the grave to being something that is impossible outside of a physical existence. Because fire physically hurts a physical body, but it would do nothing to what we would term a ghost, or something that is non-corporeal. People make a big deal out of fire now because to our physical body, yes, fire does hurt the physical body. But if you are not in a physical body, fire would no more matter than spraying a ghost with a squirt gun would make it wet. The idea of physical pain and physical pleasure physically wouldn't matter after you are physically dead. But the Christians, are very consumed by the physical. They want to give lip service to the idea of spiritual, but their own obsession with physical pain and pleasure really negates their spiritual bullshit. Reason being, if they actually believe that there is this spiritual location, then they have to discard this notion of physical suffering. Or if they want to have this notion of a physical suffering in an afterlife, they need to prove it. They need to be able to show evidence, proof, for what they are claiming. The truth of the matter is they can't. And these ideas are something that they at least affect us in so much as it causes people to behave in certain ways in life that I feel are harmful to others, like the idea of torturing somebody else, the aspect of like Guantanamo Bay and things of that nature. If you can go along with ideas of torture in an ancient book like this, and you can justify it in your mind in this shit, then logically you're going to be able to justify the same type of shit in our world, be it with things like Guantanamo Bay or the Holocaust. Whereas if you can't and won't or don't go along with it here, then you're not going to go along with it in any part of human life. It would be unacceptable. And that is what I think really matters, is people that, because of religious indoctrination, that can go along with things that are immoral, unethical, because they can go along with it from their religious standpoint. It also means that they can go along with it in physical life. And that has a direct correlation on how people treat each other. Which, if something would exist, be it alien races or higher beings of any sort, the things that people would go along with would have to factor into that. Because with more power comes more responsibility, not less. You do not have less personal responsibility being more powerful. You have more. And this is something that the religious need to, I think they need to fully mature and realize that what we believe will directly affect the type of things that we go along with. And that is why, personally, I oppose the ideas of religious texts and so forth, because anything that can make an excuse to justify or excuse the brutalization of another is a harmful or negative, or to use the religious term, evil philosophy. But feel free to leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section. Talk to you later, people.